All right, welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
This time, we're heading into Hollywood, specifically some of the more, I guess, shocking deaths. I've got a few videos here that you sent me about some celebrity death theories, some tragic deaths as well, and well, it's fascinating stuff, really.
Yeah, for sure. It's always a bit morbid, but I guess it kind of highlights that blurry line between, like, who the actor is and the roles they play, and it's interesting to see how that sometimes, yeah, it has consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a perfect example of that is Paul Walker. I mean, here's the star of Fast and Furious. He's doing all these crazy car stunts, and then tragically dies in a fiery car crash off screen. I mean, it's kind of crazy how much his death mirrored his film career. So is there something to that? I mean, like, are actors embodying their roles a little too much, or is it just like, a horrible coincidence?
Well, it's a good question. When an actor really sort of embodies a certain character, to a certain degree, I think it can be tough to separate yourself from that, the person from the role, and I think that can lead to a kind of distorted sense of self. Sometimes, and in some cases, it can contribute to, risky behavior for sure.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about the toll that takes, like, psychologically on actors, especially when they're taking on like these, dark or complex characters.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you think about Heath Ledger. Died of an accidental overdose, but that was after, such an intense role playing the Joker in The Dark Knight. Everyone speculates, like did that darkness of the role, did that contribute, to his struggles?
It's just heartbreaking, and I think it also brings up this whole other issue of the pressure that actors face to to deliver, to give these powerful performances.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, that combined with, easy access to prescription medications, in Hollywood, that can be a dangerous combination.
It seems like this pattern with substance abuse, we see it over and over. I mean, River Phoenix, Philip Seymour Hoffman, John Belushi, Chris Farley, like, so much talent, and all lost to addiction. I mean, is there something about Hollywood that makes this such a tragic, like, recurring thing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, addiction is, it's a complex disease, and there's really no, easy answer to that. But I think there are certainly some unique pressures in Hollywood, and I think they just exacerbate the problem. The media is always watching you. The pressure to maintain a certain image. There's a culture of excess. It's got to be a really challenging environment to be in.
Yeah, and it's not just the pressure to to stay thin or look young. It's the pressure to always be, like, on, to deliver hit after hit, to maintain this larger than life persona. It's kind of exhausting just to think about it, honestly.
Yeah, it's true. And then you throw in, that drugs and alcohol are so readily available. It's easy to see how people turn to those things to try and cope with all the stress and all the demands of the industry.
Yeah, it's a sad reality, and it makes me wonder if anything can be done to change things, to change the culture and provide more support for people who are, struggling with this stuff.
Well, there are, organizations and individuals out there who are working to raise awareness. They're trying to provide resources, but it's a tough battle. I mean, I think the industry itself, it needs to put the well-being of its artists, like, first, before box office potential.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about, the dangers of blurring reality and fiction, and the cycle of addiction and how tragic that can be. But there's also, there are some deaths in Hollywood that are just, like, shrouded in mystery. I mean, like Bruce Lee and his son Brandon Lee. I mean, both dying young and under some pretty strange circumstances.
All right. Yeah, and some people even think that, that the Lee family is cursed. Like, there's some supernatural force causing misfortune, because both Bruce and Brandon, died young in strange circumstances. I mean, what do you make of all that?
Right.
I tend to be, a little more grounded in reality, than to believe in curses and things like that. But it's interesting. It's fascinating how these ideas take hold, especially when the events surrounding a death are are so unclear, so unexpected, you know?
Yeah, it's like people they need an explanation,
Hmm.
even if it means like, turning to the supernatural, for that explanation.
Yeah, we all have this innate desire to find meaning, to
Mm.
find order in a world that often feels chaotic and random. And I think when something tragic happens, especially to someone famous,
Mm.
someone who seems invincible, it makes sense that people want to find an explanation. And sometimes that explanation, sometimes it's supernatural,
And speaking of unanswered questions,
Yeah.
the mystery surrounding Natalie Wood's drowning, I mean, it's another one that I think really continues to captivate people.
Hmm.
Conflicting accounts, suspicion of foul play, her husband, Robert Wagner. I mean, it's like a real life Hollywood whodunit,
Yeah. Yeah, and it really shows how these unanswered questions, these conflicting narratives, how they really contribute to the fascination that people have with certain celebrity deaths.
Yeah.
People love a good mystery, and especially when it involves a beloved star, it's even more intriguing. It's like this unsolved puzzle that people keep trying to piece together. Always hoping to find that definitive answer.
I guess it's kind of like a real life soap opera playing out in the tabloids.
Exactly. And the media plays a huge role in shaping those narratives,
Mm.
often blurring the line between fact and speculation, and that just fuels the public's curiosity even more.
So we've seen how the pressures of fame and the allure of escapism, how that can lead to these really tragic outcomes, and we've seen how unanswered questions, how they breed speculation and mystery. But what about the deaths that are just shocking because they defy explanation?
Yeah.
They just come out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where we get into, the sudden and unexpected deaths, the ones that leave fans, just reeling and searching for answers.
Like Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
officially it was ruled a probable suicide,
Yeah.
from an overdose. But there's still so many conspiracy theories around that.
Yeah. I mean, Marilyn's death, that's a prime example of how, it's hard to accept the loss of an icon, right? Especially when the circumstances surrounding their death are unclear or disputed.
It's
Yeah.
like people refuse to believe that someone who was so full of life, could be gone so suddenly. Like
Mhm.
it's like they need to find some other explanation, some way to keep that legend alive.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to that. The desire to keep the legend alive, to imagine, a world where their hero still exists, maybe even in hiding. It's a way to deny the finality of death, to hold on to that little glimmer of hope.
Yeah, that reminds me of the Avril Lavigne theory.
Yeah.
That she died early in her career and was replaced by a lookalike. Melissa Vandella.
Oh, the Melissa Vandella theory. Yeah, yeah. It's a perfect example of how internet culture can just take these outlandish claims and just amplify them and perpetuate them. It really speaks to the power of speculation and how much people love those alternative narratives.
It's crazy how those theories can just kind of take on a life of their own. Even without any real evidence.
Well, I know, and that's the thing about conspiracy theories. They often prey on our doubts, our uncertainties. And they offer this sense of order, of explanation in a world that can often feel really chaotic and unpredictable. And then you add in the internet. I mean, information spreads so quickly now, and it's unchecked, and these theories can just gain traction so fast. And they become really deeply ingrained in popular culture.
It's like we need to believe in something more, something more than the official story, even if it means embracing like the improbable or the outlandish.
Yeah, yeah, and I think when you add in the celebrity element, with all the mystique and the larger than life personas, it's no wonder that those theories just they flourish.
So we've seen the dark side of Hollywood, the tragedies, the mysteries, and all of this it lurks beneath the surface of fame, right? We've talked about addiction, accidents, unsolved mysteries, and even the conspiracy theories. But as we start wrapping up this deep dive, I can't help but feel like a sense of sadness, for the lives that were lost, the potential that was unrealized, and the stories that remain untold.
Yeah, I think that's natural, to feel that way. These were real people,
Yeah.
with real dreams, with families, with lives, and their lives were cut short. And I think while their deaths might be, sensationalized, it's important to remember the human element of it all, the
Right.
loss and the grief that comes from these events.
Absolutely. And as we reflect on these stories, I think it's also important to remember the impact these individuals had on the world, Their
Hmm.
talent, their creativity, their stories, they continue to inspire us, to
Yeah.
to entertain us.
Their work will continue to be enjoyed, to be discussed, for generations to come, and that's a pretty powerful testament to their impact on popular culture.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I can't help but think about the what ifs.
Hmm.
You know, what if these individuals had lived longer? What other stories would they have told? What impact would they have had on the world?
It's natural to ponder those questions, but it's also important to remember that their lives, however short they were cut, they were filled with passion, with creativity, and with moments of brilliance.
And those moments continue to resonate with us today. Yeah.
So as we conclude this exploration of shocking Hollywood deaths, I'm left with a sense of awe, at the complexity of these lives, the fragility of human existence, and the enduring power of storytelling.
It's been a heavy journey,
Yeah.
but insightful. And before we sign off, I want to leave you with a final thought.
It's chilling to think about,
Yeah.
One case that really comes to mind is the shocking murder of Sharon Tate, by the Manson family. I mean, that's a horrifying example of how fame and fortune, it doesn't protect you from the darkness that's out there in the world.
It's true. It's true.
Sharon Tate's death was just brutal and senseless, and it really sent shockwaves through Hollywood, and beyond. Her story and the story of the Manson family, they continue to fascinate us, They horrify us to this day.
It's hard to comprehend that level of like evil involved. In that case, it really makes you think about the nature of humanity and things like that. And then you have those freak accidents that seem almost too strange to be true. I mean,
Wow.
like the deaths of James Dean and Anton Yelchin, both involving car crashes.
Yeah, yeah, those cases really highlight just how unpredictable life is.
Right.
Even in a world that's obsessed with control and image, fate can intervene in the most unexpected and seemingly random ways. I mean, James Dean, a symbol of youthful rebellion, dying in a speeding Porsche, and then and then Anton Yelchin, a rising star, killed in a freak accident with his own car. It's a stark reminder that no one is immune to life's tragic twists and turns.
Yeah, that's a sobering thought. It makes you realize that
Hmm.
we're all vulnerable. It doesn't matter who you are or what you do.
Absolutely, and it really reinforces the importance of cherishing each day and appreciating the people in your life.
Well said. Well said. It's interesting how these stories of shocking Hollywood deaths, they often give rise to these like really elaborate conspiracy theories. It's like people they just refuse to accept the official explanations, and instead they create their own narratives to kind of fill in those gaps, right?
It really is a fascinating phenomenon. I mean, take Elvis Presley. Officially, his death was attributed to a heart attack, but despite all the medical evidence, all these conspiracy theories, they still swirl around, suggesting that he faked his own death, maybe to escape the pressures of fame, or maybe he was murdered.
Yeah, some people just can't accept that their idols are truly gone. It's almost like they need to believe in something bigger, something more mysterious to cope with that loss.
Yeah. I think that's part of it, that desire to keep that legend alive, to imagine a world where their hero, still exists, even if it's, in hiding or something. It's a way of denying that, the finality of death and clinging to that little bit of hope. you know?
It's like the Avril Lavigne thing, right? Like
Mhm.
that whole theory surrounding her, that she died early in her career and was replaced by this lookalike named Melissa Vandella.
Oh yeah, the Melissa Vandella theory. It's the perfect example of how internet culture it can take even the most outlandish claims, and it can just amplify those and perpetuate them. It speaks to the power of speculation, you know, and the appeal of these alternative narratives.
It's it's crazy how those theories can just take on a life of their own, even without any real evidence to support them.
Yeah, that's the thing about conspiracy theories, right? They often prey on our doubts and uncertainties, and they offer, you know, this sense of order, this explanation in a world that often feels very chaotic and unpredictable. And then add in the internet. I mean, information spreads so rapidly, so unchecked, you know, and these theories, they can gain traction so quickly. They become ingrained in popular culture.
It's like a collective need to believe in something more, you know,
Yeah.
something more than the official story, even if it means embracing the improbable or the outlandish.
Yeah, and when you add in, you know, the celebrity element, you know, with all the mystique, you know, the larger than life persona. I mean, it's no wonder that these theories they flourish.
So we've seen the dark side of Hollywood, you know,
Mm.
the tragedies, the mysteries that lurk beneath the surface of fame. We've talked about addiction, accidents, unsolved mysteries, and even the allure of conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
But as we start wrapping up this deep dive, I can't help but feel a sense of sadness, you know, for the lives that were lost, the potential that was unrealized, and the stories that remain untold.
It's natural, you
Yeah.
know, to feel that way. I mean, these were real people, you know, with real dreams, with families, with lives, and their lives were cut short. And while their deaths might be, you know, sensationalized, it's important to remember the human element of it all, you know, the loss, the grief that ripples out from these events.
Absolutely. And I think as we reflect on these stories, it's also important to remember the impact that these individuals had on the world, you know.
Yeah.
Their talent, their creativity, their stories, they continue to inspire and to entertain us.
Yeah, I mean, their work, it will continue to be enjoyed, it continue to be discussed for generations to come, and that's a powerful testament to the impact that they had on popular culture.
And as we wrap up this deep dive,
Mm.
I can't help but think about the what ifs,
Yeah.
you know, like what if these individuals had lived longer? What other stories would they have told? What impact would they have had on the world?
It's natural to ponder those questions, but it's also important to remember that their lives, you know, however short they were cut, they were filled with passion, with creativity, with moments of brilliance.
And those moments continue to resonate with us today.
So as we conclude this exploration of shocking Hollywood deaths, you know, I'm left with a sense of awe, you know, at the complexity of these lives, the fragility of human existence, and the enduring power of storytelling.
Yeah. It's been a heavy journey,
Yeah.
but insightful. And before we sign off, I want to leave you with a final thought.
How does our fascination with celebrity deaths, how does that reflect our own anxieties, you know? About mortality and our search for meaning in a world that can often feel, you know, really chaotic and unpredictable.
That's a great question. It really is.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we're drawn to these stories of tragedy and loss,
Mhm.
but we're also kind of repelled by them at the same time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it's a way of, you know, of confronting our own mortality or trying to make sense of something that ultimately, you know, just remains a mystery to us.
Yeah, perhaps. And maybe there's also, you know, an element of escapism there too. You know,
Right.
these stories, they let us step outside of our own lives, you know, for just a little while, and we step into this world of glamour, of intrigue and heightened emotions.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, like a car crash, right?
Yeah.
You can't look away. Even though you know it's terrible. There's just something about it that you know that you're just drawn to.
It's a complex mix of emotions, you know, for sure. And it's a reminder that even in death, you know, these individuals, they still hold a certain certain power over us. Their stories, they continue to fascinate us, to provoke, discussions and things.
It's amazing how these stories can really make you think about about life's big questions, and we often put celebrities on a pedestal. We see them as larger than life, but their deaths, they remind us that they're just as human as the rest of us,
Sure.
subject to the same vulnerabilities, the same uncertainties.
It's a humbling realization, and it really underscores the importance of living in the present moment,
Mm.
of appreciating, the people in our lives, and pursuing our passions, with purpose, with meaning.
Yeah, because you never know when it might all be over,
Yeah.
right? It's cliche, but it's true.
It really is. And while we may be drawn to the sensational aspects of these stories, I think there's also a deeper lesson to be learned, a lesson about empathy, about compassion, and the preciousness of life.
Well said. Well said. I think that's a great note to end on. It's been a fascinating, albeit somewhat morbid,
Yeah.
journey exploring this world of shocking Hollywood deaths.
It really has. But I think we've uncovered some valuable insights along the way.
Absolutely. We've seen how the pressures of fame, the allure of escapism, and just the fragility of life, how all of that can contribute to these really tragic outcomes. We've delved into the mysteries, the conspiracy theories, and that enduring fascination that we have with celebrity culture. But ultimately, I think what stays with me is the reminder that behind the glitz and the glamour, these were real people with real stories, and their lives, however short they were cut, they deserve to be remembered, with respect, with compassion.
I couldn't agree more. And perhaps by examining their stories, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
And that's what the deep dive is all about.
Aha.
So thanks for joining us on this exploration. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the fascinating and sometimes unsettling truths that lie beneath the surface of our shared human experience.